SportsNite, your home for all SU sports talk.
Whether it was a 5-goal win or just an overtime win, a win is a win, and especially in a loaded ACC, they're going to look back on this one and say, thank goodness we got a win.
There's just the question marks are so many
piling up.
that it makes you think, what if we are in for a second-year hangover?
Autry is in obviously a bad situation because of all the backlash he's getting from the fans because the pressure's high, right? But I also think he has a little bit of leeway.
Breaking down everything from around the hill.
They almost surrendered that lead in the fourth quarter, which is a concern of mine. I would have preferred to see a full 60-minute performance.
And giving hot takes along the way.
I'm just not convinced. Some of the transfers are promising, but if we look at what, national champions are made of, this team has none of that stuff.
It's SportsNite, and it starts right now.
Welcome into SportsNite. SportsNite's back. It's been a few weeks since SportsNite has been here. I'm Milo Hoffman alongside Hudson Ridley. There's a whole lot to talk about. First, Hudson, how was your last few weeks? The holidays have been here. The New Year's getting started.
Yeah, 2026.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's here.
2026. It's weird. I'm supposed to graduate from college this year.
Wow.
That's weird. Supposed to is the key word there. How was your break?
It was good. It was good. Made it out to Arizona
Nice.
out there for the first time. Tried to bring in some. It was actually not warm over there. It was like
Really?
40 degrees, so I was a little bit disappointed on that front. But it is what it is.
That's bad. If you went there to cure your tuberculosis, which a lot of people do, then that would be bad.
Oh.
But I guess if you don't have tuberculosis,
A lot
it's
of
probably no problem.
meditation going on in Sedona. A lot
bet.
of Zen stuff over there. We've got a whole lot to talk about. Syracuse men's basketball has played a few games since SportsNite has been on the air. We've got our reporter Nico Horning set to join us. And then Syracuse football has been involved in the transfer portal, along with Syracuse women's basketball in their really, really bad defeat just yesterday. Call in at 315-443-2011. That's 315-443-2011. Or interact with us on Twitter at WAER Sports Talk, over on Twitter or on YouTube at that same handle. Hudson, this Syracuse men's basketball team has been very up and down so far this season.
Yeah.
And, you try to put your finger on who this team actually is, even off of their most recent win against Georgia Tech. They didn't really have control. They're going down the stretch. Is this team good? Like, what is this team all about?
It's weird, too, because you can't just look at wins and losses. You can't just even look at their play on the floor, honestly, to tell whether or not this team is good or not, because it's so dependent on who they play usually. They're just a team that plays to the level of their competition, which, hey, that's not always the worst thing when you play a team like Duke, but that's not great when you play a team like Northeastern. The 4 games that SportsNite has not been on the air for have been Northeastern. Syracuse won that one 91-83.
Really
Stonehill.
ugly.
Yeah, that was ugly. Stonehill, Syracuse beat the brakes off of Stonehill, as they should, 77-48. A close loss to Clemson, 63-61, and Clemson's a good team. And then a road win over Georgia Tech, 82-72. So Syracuse now 1-1 in the ACC. As a result, we flash back real quick to that Northeastern game. I believe they shot nearly 50 free throws to win 91-83. That was ugly.
You can't win by 8 against Northeastern.
No.
And that's, and obviously that was also closer to the Hofstra loss, so everyone was still kind of, recovering from that game.
And they didn't blow out Mercyhurst just the game before, so that was a string of, oh boy.
And then Stonehill happens, and you're like, okay, you blow out Stonehill. You have to blow out Stonehill.
Yeah.
But Clemson, that game will come back to haunt Syracuse.
Yeah.
You're so close. Donnie Freeman comes back. He's almost nowhere to be seen in the first half. Then he explodes in the second half. That's a game that Syracuse wanted to have.
I've been dying to say this. I really have. Since that Clemson game. Donnie Freeman was awful in the first half of that Clemson game, then got on fire, scored 18 in the second half. If Donnie Freeman had played against Stonehill and just gotten up to game speed, gotten ready, it's Stonehill, right? Who cares? And at that point, look, he was probably ready to go.
So you're saying he should have played to get so that he could have been better in the first half against Clemson?
100%. Now, you don't want to split here and there, and maybe it doesn't help him in the end if he doesn't end up, doing super well in the first half against Clemson anyway. Sure, but I think you would have had a better chance to win. And I mean, that's a 2-point loss to a good Clemson team. Clemson is actually good. They're one of, I would say, probably 7 ACC teams that will make the NCAA tournament this year, potentially even more because the ACC has been so good. If you have Donnie Freeman for Stonehill, and he gets a little bit of a warm-up, then maybe hit the ground running?
Yeah, it's a valid point, right? Because there was all this talk about, Donnie Freeman has been out for so long. You kind of want to get him to rev up a little bit. He's been out for more than a month, and then you play Stonehill. I think the thought process there was, okay, Stonehill, this should be a win. We don't want to risk Donnie Freeman coming back, re-aggravating something against a team that we should take down very easily. Like, maybe that's what Autry and the coaching staff was thinking.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that's a valid thought as well. Like,
yeah.
Donnie Freeman returning against Stonehill is like, okay, whoa, Syracuse is putting this Stonehill game pretty high on the list there.
Yeah, and maybe it's not just, it's not just Donnie Freeman with that Clemson game. That's not the reason that they lost. That's the reason they almost won, right?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. I just think, if you play him 10 minutes against Stonehill, get him up to game speed. I know, in theory, practice is supposed to at times be game speed, right? And getting him up to that regard. But practice will never be the same as a real game where everybody is going all out. And so how do you, come back and be the same player you were? Sometimes you just need a cupcake to beat up on. So yeah, I do think, though, overall in this stretch for Syracuse, I think they've looked fine.
And I think fine is a good word to describe the entire season.
Yeah.
I think this stretch, honestly, sort of encapsulates the whole season. I mean, I know you were in Vegas. This team, the expectations after that trip or after that first game against Houston were sky high.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's been a steady decline. Now it's sort of plateaued a little bit. It seems like people are starting to realize what this team is, and now conference play is starting, so you can't really go ahead and make assumptions before you play all these conference games. But they just can't really establish a cult. Like against Georgia Tech in the last game, it's a 10-point win. That should have been a 20-point win.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're getting hung up, too, is the comebacks, right? Can you put a team away? That's the next step for Syracuse, other than hitting three-pointers. When you have a lead, how can you just put the team away? I know it's cliche to say, the definition of insanity, right, is doing the same thing over again. But I kind of feel a little insane when I look at this team get a lead against anybody under the sun, whether it's Georgia Tech or Mercyhurst, right?
Right.
And then they go into autopilot. It doesn't matter who they're playing against, and it's not like they don't recognize it. Adrian Autry always says, well, we gotta finish out the game. We gotta play hard the whole time. We can't let them get back in games. And then somehow it happens every game.
I don't even think it's the play hard part. There are plays in that Georgia Tech game that I cannot wrap my mind around what was happening. I mean, Nate King's had a play where he just sprinted into the front court. Shot clock was at 27.
Yeah.
You're up by single digits with time winding down. You have to use the clock there.
Yeah.
You can't just rush in to an offensive possession. Syracuse did win that 82-72. It's Milo Hoffman and Hudson Ridley on SportsNite talking Syracuse men's basketball. If you want to get involved, call in at 315-443-2011 or interact on YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. Now, going forward with this team, you play a Pitt team tomorrow that, is an okay Pitt team, but not great.
No,
this should be another win for Syracuse, and I know you're at Pitt. It's the rivalry. They've played so many times. But this Pitt team needs to be a team that Syracuse takes down, and I think they should, if they have expectations of playing in March, which maybe sounds crazy to say, this has to be another win. It has to be.
I would agree that it has to be a win here unless you're going to start stealing games from Louisville or Duke or UNC down the road, in which case, if you do lose, it would negate that. But that is a just an absolutely massive if, so I won't even put
Right.
that out there. I do think, though, this is a really good measuring stick for Syracuse. Georgia Tech, maybe not as much. That's a scrappy Georgia Tech team that almost beat Duke, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not discounting what Georgia Tech can do, but also Pitt feels like a team that's a little more put together. They have a bit more direction. They're not bad necessarily. Neither is Georgia Tech, but they're significantly worse than Pitt,
Yeah.
just based on the eye test. Pitt's not bad.
No, and we were talking about that Clemson game against Syracuse. Pitt lost to Clemson by 5
Yeah.
in their last game. So almost like a similar type boat to Syracuse Pitt's in right now.
Yeah.
I mean, just from looking at their season so far, they haven't really had a standout win, and nor Syracuse really. But Pitt hasn't had
Tennessee.
Tennessee, you're right.
Yeah.
Tennessee is definitely a standout win.
Yeah.
But other than Tennessee,
Yeah.
Pitt really hasn't had the opportunities. I mean, they played number 25 UCF at the time, but that's their only ranked opponent so far this year. So Pitt's looking at Syracuse. This needs to be a win for them as well.
Yeah.
It's sort of a similar,
And like you said, too, it was a similar ending between Pitt and Clemson. Pitt hosting Clemson, and they had a shot to tie at the end. I also think the Ohio State win that Pitt had earlier in the year, big-time comeback win, a surprise win over Ohio State, who's a solid team, I think that is valuable. But I do think overall that, this measuring stick of Pitt, a team who's not great but not bad, a middle-of-the-pack ACC team. Are you better than middle-of-the-pack? Can you be team number 8 in the ACC?
certainly coming into the year, Syracuse thought it would be.
I mean, after
don't know about
Houston,
now.
you certainly thought, okay, well, they could
Even
be one
after
of the top 8
Kansas.
teams. Yeah, even after Kansas.
Even after the first half of Iowa State.
Exactly. The first 7 halves of basketball they played in Vegas, you think this is a top 8 team. Since then, we don't really know that with the ACC. And so now, these are the kinds of games where you're going to prove it. If you can somehow sneak a win after that against, say, NC State, right? That's a good measuring stick where NC State right now is a bubble team. They play them on January 27th. You beat NC State. Sure, that's where you start to kind of solidify yourself as, hey, maybe you are a top 8 team. They're number 14 right now in the net. Syracuse in the ACC.
Yeah.
Number 14.
They have
in
no
the net
choice. They
in
have
the
no
ACC.
choice but to take some of these games. And especially, the teams that jump out on the page that SU has down the line is like, the UNC, the Virginias, the SMUs, SMU now ranked, Duke, Louisville. But it's these games that you can't get caught up in. You can't play down, quote unquote, to your opponent in any way whatsoever because, like you said at the top of the show, that's sort of what Syracuse has proven to do so far this season. It's SportsNite on WAER with Hudson Ridley. I'm Milo Hoffman talking Syracuse men's basketball. They play Pitt tomorrow over in the Steel City. If you want to get involved on the action, call in at 315-443-2011. We've got you up until 9 p.m. Now, Hudson, there are a few players. We already talked about Donnie Freeman. What's sort of your scale on J.J. Starling this year? It's been a very interesting year for J.J. He was also injured.
Yeah,
and
he was.
It's been up and down.
It has. I think, with J.J. Starling, it's always trying to find a new role, it seems. Each year
And
he's been here.
That's not good.
No,
He's a captain.
It's not necessarily good, but when you look at the kind of player that J.J. Starling is he a dominant enough scorer to truly be your number one? That has been proven to be no, right?
No.
His first year here, it was, with Judah Mintz, who's clearly your number one scorer. His second year here, he had to shoulder a lot of the load, got some offensive help from Eddie Lampkin and Donnie Freeman when they had him. He was kind of supposed to be your number one, and they couldn't win with him as the number one.
No.
This year, he's not the number one. Donnie Freeman is the number one.
Yeah.
That is clear, especially when especially when he's healthy. But when Donnie Freeman is out there, he is the number one. So now we've seen J.J. Starling in another role. Of the 3 roles that he has had to play in his time, I don't know how I would label them, but I really, second fiddle and then kind of facilitator that first year, moving from that where he couldn't really facilitate to the next year where he's got to be the star,
he
and now
felt
this year's the backup.
That first year, he felt sort of like the consistent guy. If that sounds
Yeah.
great. Like, Judah Mintz was a guy that was going to go out there. Maybe he would break someone's ankles, but he would be dumb sometimes and turn the ball over. And JJ sort of felt like that, that consistent guy coming over from Notre Dame. But when Donnie Freeman was out this year, he hasn't proven to show up. Like, he can't carry the load, and that's an issue. And now Donnie's back, and that's good, of course. Donnie's the number one guy on the team, and there's no question about that. But it's a good question you pose. Is JJ comfortable being that number 2 guy?
Yeah, and we've only seen 3, not even 3, really 2 or 3 games now where Starling has had to just truly be that number 2 role when you have everybody healthy, right? And in those games, he's been okay.
Yeah.
You would expect, when you see tournament teams, NCAA tournament teams, they are not just good because they have one really good player, right? Carmelo Anthony in 2003 was one really good player, but you cannot win a championship without Hakeem Warwick, without Jerry McNamara. The list goes on, right? When you have a really good number 2, that's what tournament teams have.
Yeah.
And is J.J. Starling good enough to be a tournament number 2? I think maybe in other systems and other places perhaps, but on this Syracuse team, I just don't know. He's been up and down, sure, and is there still plenty of time for him to become a more consistent player? Well, I don't know. I mean, he's got 18 games potentially left of his college career.
Yeah,
but
I don't know what JJ's plans are for after college, but I don't know. But maybe an overseas type of player JJ Starling is. You're talking about being consistent. Well, Syracuse is trying to build a consistent team that they actually, have the ability to put out there. And now that Donnie Freeman is back in the lineup, Adrian Autry really is, of course, he's a fan of that. But as a coach, you want to have the players that you trust, and you want to have the players that you can consistently rely on to put out on the floor. And really, for the first time this year, Syracuse seems like they have a whole squad, and Adrian Autry is a big fan of that.
He's a guy that you can throw the ball below the foul line, and that's a big difference for us. We wasn't getting that before. So to be able to throw the ball below the foul line and get some easier shots and be able to continue to put pressure on the rim, that's really key. And I think again we haven't been whole the whole year. So this is the first time in the last 2 games that we've been whole. So I think we'll continue to improve and to get that connection.
Well, Syracuse is whole going into their game against Pittsburgh tomorrow.
Yeah.
And coming into the year, Syracuse is a deep squad. Nate George is now here. You have all these guys, Nate Kings, that are going to take advantage, and maybe it's going to be different once they get some rhythm with a similar group.
I will admit, if Donnie Freeman had been healthy for this entire stretch, for this entire season, Syracuse right now would be a tournament team if Donnie Freeman was healthy. But he hasn't been, and so now, Milo, they have work to do starting with Pitt tomorrow.
Without a doubt. We've got some more work to do here on SportsNite. About 40 more minutes left in the show, and after this quick break, we've got a reporter, Nico Horning, joining us on SportsNite, so you won't want to miss it. Stay with us.
Hey there, WAER listeners. Want to stay in the loop with all the latest news, behind-the-scenes moments, and exclusive content? Follow us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok for the stories you won't hear anywhere else. From breaking news to fun interactive posts, it's all happening online. Don't miss out. Hit that follow button and be a part of the conversation with WAER.
News happens all week, all around the world.
If you want to understand what this French election is all about...
4 candidates are running unopposed, and 3 of them met reporters Thursday.
Whatever the outcome of today's elections, the secessionist genie is out of the bottle.
News, analysis, perspective, music, books, and sports, too. Saturday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
Saturday morning from 8 to 10 on WAER and streaming live on WAER.org.
Selling a vehicle on your own, especially nowadays, can be a hassle, but donating it to WAER couldn't be easier. Simply provide a clean title and we'll take care of the pickup and donation receipt. To get started, visit WAER.org.
Who's gonna drive you home tonight?
It's Sports Night. Got you all the way up until 9 p.m. here on WAER, breaking down Syracuse men's basketball before the Orange take on Pitt tomorrow. Hudson Ridley here with Milo Hoffman as we take you through this one. And also in the Steel City right now, we have our man Nico Horning. He'll be on the call tomorrow. Nico, I understand that you had dinner tonight with a Western PA local in Luke Burgess. So my question is, did you go to Permanente Brothers?
That would be incorrect, Hudson. Good to be with you and Milo, first of all. We had a nice Italian dinner, actually, here in Lawrenceville, just outside of Pittsburgh tonight. And, really good spot. Plenty of spots on the strip here, and it was great. So good to see everyone.
Have you been to Permanente Brothers at all? Do you know what they do there?
I have not. No, I have no idea.
Sandwiches, right?
They do sandwiches, but not only do they do sandwiches, they put fries on the sandwiches, and they pile it high.
Maybe I have heard of this.
Wow.
See, yeah, fries on the sandwich. You have a little bit of time left there. I would suggest if you're still there, I would go tomorrow.
Maybe a pregame meal.
Not too bad.
Hey, tomorrow.
Yep, you would hope.
Tip's not till 2. Tip's not till 2, I'm just saying.
That's true. You would hope Syracuse men's basketball is not eating Permanente Brothers before the game because they have a game that, in theory, they really need to win. Pitt is 108 in the net rankings, and they sit under 500 record-wise so far this year. Nico, Milo, and I were talking about how we think this is kind of a must-win game unless you're going to go on the road and beat Duke. Do you feel the same way as we do?
100%. I mean, I think every game from here on out is must-win, if you want to put it that way, besides maybe your Duke and North Carolinas and Louisville's of the world. You got to win all these kind of, I guess, 500 games that you would say against some of these teams like Pitt and some of the other, I guess, mid ACC teams. It because of that loss against Hofstra, and yes, you beat Tennessee. It's just put Syracuse in such a tough position, and they pretty much have to win out essentially. In these ACC games, of course, you're going to face some really tough teams later on, and you're not expected to win those games. You'd like to take a game or two from them, but as far as this Pitt game is concerned, yes, it's a must-win for sure, and Syracuse has a good opportunity to do that. Pitt is also kind of in the same boat, looking for the same thing from Syracuse, and I don't know if you guys have been talking about this, but if you look at what's happened after halftime in the recent games for both of these teams to start ACC play, it has been a difference in the ball game. For Syracuse, a pretty poor second half against Georgia Tech. They still got the win. For Pitt, a really poor second half against Clemson. They ended up losing that game. So I think tomorrow's game comes down to who can take care of business after halftime and keep their offense up to par and see what happens after that.
Well, Nico, you're talking about sort of closing the deal, and SU struggled to do that against Georgia Tech in its last game. To do that, you kind of need like a quote-unquote closer, right? I know it's not baseball, but basketball, you have your clutch players, the players who get stuff done. Does Syracuse actually have that type of player who's going to, show up late in the second half as time is dwindling that Adrian Autry can lean on with the ball in his hands?
They're looking for that right now. And I think Nathan George really was that guy the other day against Georgia Tech. I mean, he had 4 free throws in the final 30 or so seconds to close out the game. The guy went 10 for 10 from the free throw line, which is unheard of from a Syracuse player, especially this season. They've been so poor from the free throw line. So you look at a guy like George, he could be that person. J.J. Starling, especially last year, we saw him have some moments where at least he was in rhythm towards the end of games to do that. And, maybe he's been more inconsistent on the offensive end this year, but defensively he stepped up, so he's another guy that you can look to. Honestly, Donnie Freeman, with him being back, that's obviously your guy, at least someone that can go on and play some professional basketball right off the bat. I think he's another guy. So I don't think there's that definitive closeout player yet, but there are options, and I think now that Donnie's back, Nathan's getting in a bit of a rhythm. I think JJ's accepted his senior role. There is an opportunity to kind of find that guy here in the next couple of games.
Yeah, Donnie kind of has to be your closer almost with the style of his game. It's really hard to have Nathan George as a pass-first point guard be the guy that puts the nail in the coffin of the other team. I am curious, though, when you look at Pitt, does Pitt have anybody that Syracuse should be worried could take over the game down the stretch?
I mean, there's a couple of guys you could look at. Cameron Corhan, of course, is one of their main feature players. He's a senior, kind of in the same he's a forward. J.J. Starling's a guard, but kind of in that same boat where maybe they're either 1 and 2. Corhan is leading the team in points, but, Starling, he's going to get your 10 points or so, but he's not exactly at that level from last year, and I think that could be credited to the depth that Syracuse has this year. Honestly, for Pitt, someone that stepped up lately, DeMarco Minor is someone that I think is going to bring a lot to the table for Pitt because he can beat you in a lot of different facets, not just scoring-wise. He had 17 against Clemson the last time out, but he had 3 steals as well. He can shoot well from the free throw line, almost 90%. He's 42% from three-point land, which leads the team. So he's a guy that can kind of do it all and is very versatile, and I think if he has any edge over Syracuse tomorrow, that could put the Orange in a tough spot due to his versatility.
I always think it's interesting when I look at, this is matchup number 5 now between Adrian Autry and Jeff Capel. And I do think that in the matchups that we've seen outside of one where Adrian Autry got crushed at Pitt and Pitt dropped 100 a couple years ago, I do think Adrian Autry tends to outcoach Jeff Capel sometimes. And when you look at what Pitt had last year talent-wise versus what Pitt had this year talent-wise, and you could do the same thing for Syracuse. Pitt had a couple of guys, including Bub Carrington, who's now like a bona fide NBA player, Bub Carrington.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think when you consider, Syracuse went on the road and lost by 11 last year at Peterson Event Center. If you consider that, I honestly think the changing of rosters bodes very well for Syracuse this year in terms of, having maybe now just a talent advantage that they haven't had over Pitt in years. Would you agree with that?
No doubt about it. Pitt's had a couple of injuries, but also it's just a younger team, than what they have had. And it's also a mix of, you got young, but also you have older guys trying to, make up entire deficits, it seems like, for this Pitt team, because there is some sort of panic towards the end of the games. If you look at Syracuse, they're not much better, and I know I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but they're not much better in the second half. But Pitt just doesn't have that experience to close out some games. It's more of a youth issue, not understanding how to win. So with that in the back of the mind for Coach Autry and for Syracuse, that is something the Orange can take advantage of the Panthers, just like Clemson did the other day against Pitt. So, of course, Capel, great coach. Autry is figuring things out as well, and I do think Autry has at least more of an opportunity edge to get Capel this time because, you're right. Both losses last year for Syracuse. The Orange haven't won here in Pittsburgh since January of 24. So, there is an opportunity. Pitt's a little shorthanded, and they're also young. So,
Nico, I'm curious to see what you want to see from William Kyle tomorrow. William Kyle, obviously, he was honestly the most exciting player on the team and is one of the most exciting players on the team so far this season. But I'm curious to see, or to hear what you have to say about him going forward into this game, because I think that matchup down low for Kyle is going to be vital if SU wants to pick up a victory.
It will be. And Kyle is honestly one of the most, premier players on Syracuse, but also one of the most important because you need that presence down low. Look, when Freeman was out, everyone knows what happened to Syracuse. It was much more perimeter-oriented. They couldn't go inside much. All the focus was on Kyle. Now you bring Donnie back. Kyle kind of has that opportunity to get back to a little bit what we saw earlier in the year as far as kind of the expanded game he can play. So, obviously leads the ACC in blocks. Rebounding he can get. So I think tomorrow it's an important opportunity for him to really take advantage of what he's capable to do. Only had 5 points against Georgia Tech He did have a block, but I expect a much bigger game from him. And also it's a little bit of kind of balancing the work that Freeman and Kyle can do down low in the paint.
He kind of disappeared, William Kyle, against Georgia Tech in that one. I think, too, we've only seen this pairing in the front court of William Kyle and Donnie Freeman now 5 times together. Of those 5 times, William Kyle has looked great in 4 of them, right? Now, we're 3 of those matchups against Drexel and Binghamton and Delaware State. Yes, all right, sure. But William Kyle looked tremendous in those regardless of what the competition was. My hope is that they kind of learn to gel together. I don't know if that will be the case, though, down the line, especially because you missed so much time.
But the thing is that they play so differently, right, Nico? I mean, they're two complete, they're almost the same height, but they play so differently, have such a different, way of going about things, and bring completely different things to the table. You don't see Donnie Freeman going up there and swatting away shots like William Kyle, and of course you don't see William Kyle, putting the ball on the floor and getting to the cup. So, they're two completely different players.
Yeah. Here's the deal and Hudson, you hit it right on the head, Freeman was out for 9 games.
Yeah.
And, you saw some of that companionship a little bit earlier. Then you take a few games off playing with one another, and now you're trying to get back to it maybe not. That's what you're trying to figure out. Hudson, I'm going to ask you, if you're looking at, and you can include tomorrow, you can include the Pitt game tomorrow. How many games does it take for Freeman and Kyle to kind of get back to some syncing up that they can do down low to play on the floor at the same time? Because I think it's very capable. It's just a matter of, is there enough time before you play some of these really tough ACC teams?
You better hope it's within the next 3 games, right? You have Pitt on the road, you host Florida State, and you go on the road against Boston College. You should be 3-0 in those games, and in one of those 3 games, it should start to be the catalyst of, okay, Donnie Freeman and William Kyle are clicking again. They are back. You can have William Kyle, you can have Donnie Freeman, both out there at the same time. You can have your cake and eat it too, right? That is what Syracuse has to get to in order to be successful down the line, because they play such different roles. Donnie Freeman has underrated rim protection, but no one protects the rim on Syracuse like William Kyle. Donnie Freeman has underrated rebounding, but no one is more of an aggressive rebounder than William Kyle. So I think having both of them playing these 2 different roles is helpful to help them gel. It's not like, J.J. Starling and Judah Mintz. This is the second time we've brought up Judah Mintz on this show. It's not like them a couple of years ago where they played a similar role and it was hard for them to gel. These 2 should click, and so will we see something like we did against Georgia Tech tomorrow against Pitt? I'm not sure, but you just have to hope within the next 3 games, Pitt, Florida State, and Boston College, that Syracuse ends up figuring it out. On SportsNite here, 8:32, so we've got you for 28 more minutes here on SportsNite. Milo Hoffman and Hudson Ridley here with you, and then we also have Nico Horning calling in from the Steel City. If you want to call in, get in on the conversation here, 315-443-2011. That's the number to call. You can also tweet at us or X at us at WAER Sports Talk. We want to know your thoughts right now on Syracuse men's basketball as it stands. Nico, that 3-game stretch that Syracuse has coming up is certainly a big one to tell the tide of this. Obviously, we're just looking at Pitt right now, but if you win that Pitt game and all of a sudden you have back-to-back ACC road wins, that would just be so massive for Syracuse. I know some fans are probably rolling over right now thinking, oh, back-to-back ACC wins is massive. But, Nico, it really is massive.
It is. There's no way around it. Again, I know we're going to keep alluding back to this Hofstra loss for a while, but it's true. You lose a game like that, even as good as a game that Hofstra played, as good as a game as it was, that was tough just on paper. And so you sort of look at it as a way, if you lose one, you got to win one or steal one. And it seems like that's kind of the point that Syracuse is at right now. But again, you got to take care of business against Pitt, Florida State, Boston College. These are teams that Syracuse has to beat if they want to be relevant down the stretch and give them that opportunity to be in the right position at the end of the day. You can look into it as much as you want, but it's as simple as you got to win. And sometimes it doesn't matter how, especially college hoops. some guys are just so inconsistent. That's the nature of the game. That's why March is so fun too. It comes down to who can be the most consistent, and I think Syracuse is trying to figure that out, and it will help for sure that Donnie Freeman's back on the floor.
It's so funny we're talking about, rolling of the eyes, back-to-back ACC wins for Syracuse. When I think about Syracuse and Pitt, I don't know about you guys, I think about Tyler Ennis and his buzzer beater. The difference between Syracuse basketball and its state right now and how SU was, I don't know, more than a decade ago with Tyler Ennis and CJ Fair and all of those players, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the stark difference from what, SU was doing in the 2013, 2014 type of years to now. The culture is so different.
And when you watch the Tyler Ennis buzzer beater, look down on the ticker at the bottom. I believe
number one.
Don't come at me if I'm wrong. I believe at the time they were the number one team in the country when the Tyler Ennis buzzer beater happened. And so to go from that to saying now, boy, beating Pitt would be huge to get back-to-back ACC wins against a team that's 108th in the net ranking. That'd be tough. But, Nico, there is a reason that could be harder. I mean, Pitt's energy that they have in the Oakland Zoo. I don't know if students are back on campus, and I would highly doubt it that they're back yet, although some schools, I guess, are returning at this point. I mean, no matter how bad Pitt can be sometimes, that's a hard building to play.
Well, the fans show up. That's for sure. It's their basketball team. Yeah, same with Syracuse. I mean, there's no NBA around. There's no other, big time basketball program. This is their team.
R.I.P. to the Pittsburgh
they should be rooting for them the way they show up and the way they do. Students, I want to say they start this next week, so I'm not sure about that, but we'll see what happens there. Curious to see kind of what the atmosphere is like. I mean, we saw, first of all, if you're talking about Orange Nation, how many Syracuse fans were down in Atlanta. That was a really cool sight to see and hear if you were listening to the game here on WAER. And then, as far as, what else is going on, I mean, I think it's going to be decently well attended. It's tough because it's two teams sort of trying to find their stride. I think Syracuse obviously has a little bit more rhythm and depth, and the talent's there this year. And so there's that. And then Pitt, again, just so young, but some interesting players as well, just kind of a good mesh of talent. We'll see what happens. But excited to see the arena, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, one last thing for you, Nico. I know Syracuse and Pitt is definitely the most important sporting event going on in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Right.
Have you seen any of that Steeler Nation energy over in Pittsburgh? What's the vibe over there?
Well, it's all over. Yeah. I mean, it is Pittsburgh. That's their team. Flying in today, they had black and yellow balloons near the baggage claim that said, "Here we go, Steelers." So a big lighted up, laminated thing there. It's all over. It's relevant. People are ready. Saw the stadium driving in. It's all lit up. They're testing some things out, so they're ready. They get an extra day. I think they played Monday night, so we'll see how it goes. But a lot of hype around here, and I'm sure the more I walk around, especially tomorrow close to the arena, there'll be tons of Steeler fans out and about, and that's a great stadium to play. Pittsburgh, if you haven't been, I mean, you have Acrisure Stadium, you have PNC Park right next door, Peterson Event Center, it's not exactly near those stadiums, but it's on the other side of downtown. Mm-hmm. So everything's pretty close to each other, and definitely a cool sports town. I mean, you talk about great fans for all their respective sports. I mean, I didn't even mention the Penguins right downtown. So a lot going on, and fun time, and I'm sure a lot of Steelers fans are getting ready for Monday.
Oh, yeah. Certainly must be. They're probably at Permanente Brothers. I would highly encourage you to go there, although I've never been. I've never been. All of this time I've been hyping it up. I've actually never been.
I was going to ask you.
No, I've never been. So, Nico, if you go there, do it in honor of me. Take a picture of it, send it to me, and I can live vicariously through you.
Hey, I got you. I will. I'll let you know. Underrated food city. I'm just gonna let you guys know.
Interesting. All right. Well, maybe I'll have to make it out to Pittsburgh. That's Nico Horning. He'll be on the call tomorrow on WAER. We'll have coverage with you starting at 1:30 with McClure Modeling Countdown at tip-off, and then you'll hear Nico and Adam Hipsky at 2. Nico, thank you for joining us. All righty. We will keep on rolling here on Sports Night. We've only got you for 20 more minutes here on the air. And on the other side, we're talking some women's basketball. Syracuse lost to Virginia Tech yesterday. We'll break down that, and then also the calamity of the transfer portal for everybody, including Syracuse. All that and more. We'll be back on Sports Night after this.
WAER's weekly e-newsletter is back, and it's keeping you in the loop.
Get the week's top news, Syracuse sports, new podcast drops, and events happening around Central New York all in one quick read.
Subscribe to get this week's top stories, new podcast episodes, and more in one convenient place, sent every Friday.
WAER's weekly e-newsletter, In the Loop, is sent straight to your inbox every Friday.
Sign up to receive our refreshed and redesigned e-newsletter, In the Loop.
Stay informed, stay connected, and stay in the loop
on WAER.org.
Delve into the rich tapestry of acoustic-led folk, roots, and Americana music here on 88.3 FM WAER. Enjoy national and international acts, as well as local artists every Sunday with host Pete Thomas. Whether you're seeking the comfort of timeless classics or contemporary gems and music discovery, don't miss Common Threads, Sundays from 2 to 5, exclusively on 88.3 WAER, your local NPR station.
My name is Tony Cavan, and I'm the managing editor for Standards and Practices at NPR. I try and lead the conversation on newsroom ethics. Are we representing all viewpoints in a given story? Are we being fair to the people and institutions we're reporting on? These are just some of the questions we deal with every day before every story goes on the air, and we do it for you. This is NPR.
Listen to WAER News every weekday during Morning Edition from 5 to 9 and All Things Considered from 4 to 6, or catch up anytime at WAER.org.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions, plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Back on Sports Night just for 20 more minutes on this Friday night, January 9th, alongside Hudson Ridley. I'm Milo Hoffman. We just spoke to our reporter and play-by-play man who's down in Pittsburgh for SU's game against Pittsburgh tomorrow. But now it's time to move on to Syracuse women's basketball. And we'll talk some transfer portal as well as we wrap up the show. But Syracuse women's basketball, I mean, talk about an exciting team to begin the year. This team was awesome. I mean, talk about, their Uche Izoje, Dominique Darius, Layla Feely. It's an exciting team against Virginia Tech last night. That was gone. It disappeared.
They looked awful. I will say this isn't – I would say this is much more of a Virginia Tech thing than a Syracuse thing. Virginia Tech had the absolute perfect game plan in that game. Obviously, teams are going to be hot and cold shooting the three. Syracuse knows that like no other team. The Orange are not good at shooting the three.
Awful.
It's both on the men's and women's side.
Yeah.
But Virginia Tech forced Syracuse into the most uncomfortable shots because they took away Uche Izoje. Uche Izoje, for those of you who haven't been keeping up with the team or aren't familiar, she played a couple years professionally in Japan and then came over here and is listed as a freshman. Not sure if she's got 4 years of eligibility, and I would highly doubt that she does, but she's listed as a freshman. She is actually unbelievable. Watching her in person, the release that she has, she's about 6'3". She averages around 3 blocks per game.
Yeah.
She's been the ACC Rookie of the Week 4 times, the National Rookie of the Week. She just got that first player in program history to do both, right?
Yeah.
She is unbelievable.
She's hitting turnaround mid-range jumpers on the daily.
And her release is probably 7 feet in the air.
No one can get it.
Actually minimum 7 feet. I would bet her release is about 8 feet in the air. It's
Yeah.
unreal. So with all that, considering how dominant of a player she's been and what a run she's on, Virginia Tech, who's a team that sometimes struggles in the paint to defend, made the smart move of fronting her every single time she tried to touch the ball, and they couldn't pass it in.
And you bring up a good point, sort of blocking off Uche Izoje down low. You have to remember she is a freshman. she hasn't, played at this sort of intensity. So now that teams are, okay, this player has now won ACC Rookie of the Week 4 times, they're going to start to put her in their game plan and attack her in a different way. So now sort of the next chapter of Izoje's freshman year begins, and it's how are you going to deal with the different looks that teams are going to give you? Because Syracuse flat out is not even close to as good as they are right now without Uche Izoje. I mean, she's by far the best player.
Close.
And I don't know about by far. Dominique Daris has been pretty good this year.
And Layla Felia, I think, is good. Sophie Burrows when she's good. This team is so much better roster construction-wise than last year. It's not even close.
And even, the top freshmen in Camden Nelson and Jasmine Cooper not even really playing. Like the rotations for Coach Jack have been sort of all over the place. I don't know. Are you trying to put I don't know who Coach Jack is going to play going into the game. And it's a complete mystery every single game. Some days, Angelica Velez is the spark plug off the bench. Then against Wake Forest, she didn't play.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
You never know.
You never know.
And I respect a coach that does that because clearly, on one end you could say, oh, does Felicia Leggett-Jack have full faith in her players to match up against every team? If you want to spin it in a bad way, maybe you could put it in that way. The way I see it as, you're game planning differently for every team because you're in such a good ACC. Yeah. Sometimes players won't play the full game. Sometimes, Journey Thompson did not play much at all at the beginning of the year. In ACC play, Journey Thompson has been starting.
Yeah.
And she's a player that started a couple games last year, was kind of in and out of the starting lineup. Now all of a sudden she's starting, and she did again last night. So it's a bit of a resurgence for her, and I think it's just Felicia Leggett-Jack looking at these matchups and saying, okay, I want my best players for this matchup out on the floor, not necessarily my best players on any given day, tailoring to that. I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, and I agree. You have to, because the team is so deep. The team is so deep. I mean, they're double-digit players that can go out there and play meaningful minutes,
which you did not have last year.
Not at all.
No.
I mean, it seemed like just like the Sophie Burrows show, and if Sophie Burrows is doing well, then Syracuse maybe has a chance to win. If not, not. One more specific thing on this Virginia Tech game, Carly Wenzel on the Hokies.
Oh.
She had 25-plus points against Syracuse last year.
Yeah.
18 points again against Syracuse yesterday. Talk about kryptonite.
And I mean, Syracuse also just caught Virginia Tech on the worst possible game that they could have caught them on, because Virginia Tech last year, they shot 37% from three.
Yeah.
Pretty good number. That was second in the ACC. This year, Virginia Tech shoots 27% from three. That is dead last in the ACC. So they have gone from good to bad. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, they shoot 6 of 9 last night from three. Syracuse couldn't take the lid off the basket. They only scored 8 points in the second quarter, which, by the way, 6 of those 8 came within the last 90 seconds of the quarter.
Yeah.
They had scored 2 points for basically the entire quarter.
In the second quarter, Syracuse didn't score until 6.5 minutes into the quarter.
Yeah, and then they went on another 2-minute drive afterwards.
Exactly. All that work after that drought was then put away because Virginia Tech just, put their foot on the gas. Everyone talks about the depth perception in the dome. Clearly, the Hokies were not feeling that at all, and it was just pure domination for Virginia Tech over Syracuse. It's Sports Night. I'm Milo Hoffman with Hudson Ridley. We've got about 12 more minutes left in the show. So if you want to talk to us, you can at 315-443-2011. We're also live on YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. SU came into the day yesterday in the last 4 out in the NCAA tournament. So March Madness hopes for Syracuse seemed high. They were once in the last 4 in a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm sure they're not going to be in the last 4 out and be completely out.
Yeah.
But if SU wants to make March Madness, they're going to have to, not play like that against Virginia Tech last night moving forward, and there's no choice.
And just to preface for any of you who just joined us, this is Syracuse women's basketball who is now on the first 4 out. Syracuse men's basketball couldn't even dream to be that close now.
No.
But the women's team, They've played very well. The only question is now, in such a good ACC, how do you keep this rolling? Because Virginia is a solid team. You have to go play Virginia next. That is at John Paul Jones Arena. Tough road environment. Then you have Cal and Stanford.
Yeah.
Stanford is not the Stanford of the past, but they're still solid. North Carolina, you could argue the same deal. You don't have a lot of margin for error, especially because if you get yourself into a hole and you're relying on winning your last couple of games, well, 2 of your last 3 games in the regular season are NC State and Notre Dame.
Right.
Really tough matchups there. So I think right now for Syracuse, it's you got to win the games that you can win. Virginia Tech was a game they, on paper, could have gone in and won. And I do just think, I don't think it was a bad coaching performance at all from Felicia Legette-Jack. I think her team just kind of got blitzed by really good shooting from Virginia Tech. I think it was just Megan Duffy, head coach of Virginia Tech, having a great X's and O's game.
Right.
I think that's what it was.
At the end of the day, basketball is a shot-making game. And if you make your shots like Virginia Tech did, that's the result that you're going to get. I feel like I was just like Richard Sherman right there. That's the result you got.
That's what you're going to get.
Speaking of football, and speaking of not Richard Sherman, but college football semifinals in action right now. Indiana on top 21-7 over Oregon, number 1 seed Indiana. But Hudson, more than just this semifinal slate, the transfer portal amongst all of college football. It's the best reality TV show out there right now.
100%.
It's unbelievable. It's unreal.
We have seen things in this cycle that we've never seen before. Damon Williams, who is the quarterback of Washington.
Yeah.
So this is the most interesting story to me of the transfer portal. He signs a contract with Washington as this whole carousel is going around and, different teams are signing different quarterbacks. He commits to stay at Washington after a good year there. LSU tries to go get Cincinnati quarterback Brendan Sorsby. They miss on him. He goes to Texas Tech and is apparently getting – Texas Tech is funded by oil money. Apparently he's getting a slice of that. I'm not sure how true that is. But they miss out on him. LSU needs a quarterback. So what do? They tamper, and they say, hey, Damon Williams, we should get you to be quarterback of LSU. And he says, okay, and enters his name into the transfer portal despite already having signed a contract.
What is this is it's the loyalty that word does not exist in college sports.
We're dealing with
right
a different L word. We're dealing with legality. He couldn't even do that. And so University of Washington says, wait a second, you signed a contract. We are going to sue you.
Yeah.
So then the university is suing one of its students, and his agent, which college football players now have agents, his agent has dropped him. And this whole chaos has happened. Now he has committed to return back to Washington, and LSU is left without a quarterback because the guy they were courting, they chose to prioritize Damon Williams, and so now they don't have anybody. It is unbelievable. And if you're confused after listening to that, I don't know what to tell you because I'm confused.
And last night, after Miami's win over Ole Miss, Kirk Herbstreit on the broadcast, when the broadcast went back to the booth and they sort of had their moment in front of the camera, he probably went on a 2-minute rant talking about how, obviously Ole Miss, Ferris State and old Trinidad Chambliss, and he won the championship at D2. They built a culture over there. And although they lost, there was a culture that was being built. He looked dead into the camera and said, if you're going to go out there and pay these players all the money that they want, you're just not going to have that success.
No.
And so Kirk Herbstreit, along with all these people, are trying to bring back this, what college football should be because it is so far gone. I mean, Lane Kiffin has coaches that are, he's bringing over to LSU, traveling back and forth with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Scouting for LSU one day, preparing for Miami the other day. what's going on?
Yeah, on the Ole Miss sidelines last night, Trinidad Chambliss, the starting quarterback of Ole Miss, was talking to Austin Simmons, their backup, who Austin Simmons also happens to now be the starting quarterback at Mizzou, but he's just there on the sidelines because you can do whatever you want now. So I think this wild landscape, and you talk about how could this affect Syracuse. Well, Syracuse is such, at this point, in some regards, a bottom feeder that when you talk about the drama of what's going on, the drama actually doesn't even affect Syracuse because it's so far above Syracuse's level. I will go through what Syracuse has done in the transfer portal so far. The Orange have lost a couple players. Yasin Willis, running back number 1 this year. Jonte Cook, Darryl Gill, Emmanuel Ross, wide receivers 1, 2, and 3 this year.
Huge players.
Yes, huge players. So that sucks. You lose a linebacker in Derek McDonald who wasn't healthy but had been your number 1 option at linebacker, and you lose a promising young corner in Caleb Singleton who ended up going to an SEC school. You also lose Ricky Collins, big whoop. That's a tough one. He's going to Kennesaw State now, which had been seen for years as the worst team in FBS. They're no longer that, but they could go back to that with Ricky Collins at quarterback. We'll see. In terms of who Syracuse has brought in, they brought in Elijah Moore, not the basketball player who transferred from Syracuse to Utah.
Or the wide receiver that went to Ole Miss and was on the Jets and Browns.
Yes, the other Elijah Moore, who is a former 4-star wide receiver from Florida State. He was brought in. He had 1 catch this past year against Pitt for 19 yards, so talk about production. They also brought in Ahmad Miller, who was a running back at Jackson State, who seems pretty promising, but that's an FCS school. We'll see how it translates. Cole Weaver, a very tall wide receiver from Miami, Ohio, 6'4", good at the catch point. I watched a little bit of him. He's solid, but is he great? No.
I mean, Hudson, I don't mean to stop you.
No.
You're describing these players, and the first thing you say about one of the players is he's a very tall wide receiver.
Yep.
That's not a good sign.
No.
Not a good sign at all.
Not good, not great. He's tall. It's right. Like I don't know if you've seen the SNL skit with Sabrina Carpenter. I got a new boyfriend. What about him? Well, he's tall. What else? Oh, he's 6'5".
Right.
That's about it. What do we know about Cole Weaver? Well, he's tall. And then the only other players that you're getting transfer from Georgia State to fill out the defensive line, and then a half quarterback, half running back, Jawan Johnson from LSU. So overall, after all of that, encapsulating what Syracuse has done in the portal, it's not the portal the Orange had last year so far. It's definitely not the portal the Orange had the year before. And coming off a 3-9 season where you have 30-ish players out the door, look, Milo, I'm not feeling good.
Syracuse is playing. It almost feels like SU's playing a different sport. Watching Miami, the closest thing SU has to that is, we played them this year. It's great. Got blown out, but still saw them. So
sure.
some connection to Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes over there. Quickly, very quick prediction. Who do you think's going to win the entire thing this year? Indiana up big on Oregon, so it's looking like a Indiana-Miami national championship.
I think Indiana beats the brakes off of Miami and is the clear number 1 team in the country, and they're only going to be better next year. They've had the best portal in the country. I'm really scared of Indiana.
Indiana is very good. Heisman winner Fernando
what do you think?
Mendoza. I think Indiana also takes it. I mean, just another story. Unbelievable story. Fernando Mendoza from Cal. Now he wins the Heisman with the Hoosiers. Unbelievable stuff from him. That just about does it for us here on Sports Night. Our next broadcast on WAER is tomorrow. Syracuse men's basketball against Pittsburgh. That's at 2 o'clock. Tune in to McClure Modeling Countdown to tip off at 1:30 with Hudson Ridley.
Oh, yeah.
Co-host right there. And the double overtime with Josh Richardson and Jake Klein. Few thank yous to hand out. Our producer, Nathaniel Cunningham, our engineer, Dan Papillo, and our desk members, Josh Solomon and Ryan Croak. This has been Sports Night on WAER Syracuse. For Hudson Ridley, I'm Milo Hoffman saying so long. Enjoy the rest of the college football semifinals and Syracuse men's basketball against the Panthers tomorrow.